this Workforce Wednesday webinar. My name is Kirsten Bayer, and I'm with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University. I will be on along with my colleague Molly Cook today for your technology support and just to help moderate for our presenters today. Today's topic for our Workforce Wednesday webinar is Illinois Employment and Business System. So IEBS is what I've been told been being referred as. So Levi, if you could go to the next slide for me. Thank you. So again, my name is Kirsten Bayer. I'm with ICSPS. Hopefully you have heard of us by now. We've put on, in collaboration with the WIOA Professional Development Committee, all of our Workforce Wednesday webinars. So you've probably heard me talking before on a webinar that you've attended. If not, welcome. Thank you for spending your Wednesday morning with us. We do appreciate it. I'm just going to go over some housekeeping items. So we do have closed captioning on today for accessibility reasons or for note-taking purposes. So feel free to turn those on. Today's session is being recorded. So we will have the recording up on our website, which I can put in the chat here momentarily. And it will be up on Illinois WorkNet's website. Typically it takes about 48 working hours to get the video edited for closed captioning and to edit out any discrepancies or anything like that for the video editing. So just give us some leeway with the video, but the slide deck is actually already up on our website for your accessibility. And I've gone ahead and put the direct link to the slide deck in the chat for you. So you can click that and download it if you would like to. I've also put the PDF in the chat as well. And for those of you who are just joining on this morning, I'll go ahead and do that again. I know the Zoom chat doesn't update for everybody if you just logged on. So it might not be in your chat. I'll do it again when I'm finished talking here in a second. Some other housekeeping items that I want to go over is that we are on the Zoom webinar platform. So you as an attendee do not have the ability to unmute yourself or turn on your camera. So it's more of a presenter audience type of platform. However, we are going to have an opportunity for Q&A and conversation and discussion. So if you have a question, a comment, or a concern, please feel free to type it in the chat throughout the session, or you can even raise your virtual hand on your Zoom toolbar at the bottom. And myself or my colleague Molly Cook will actually click a button that allows you to unmute yourself and have an open dialogue with the presenters today. So there is that opportunity for that open dialogue as well. Somebody in the chat put that my audio is muted. Are you able to hear me, Patty and Levi?
I hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
What can we do about them?
Ben, if your audio is muted, it might just be, my audio isn't muted, so it might just be your volume or your audio settings. I'll work with you in 1 second here to kind of troubleshoot that. Thank you, R. Callaghan, for telling me that you could hear me. Awesome.
Yeah, and thank you for asking me.
Okay, so Levi, you can go to the next slide for me, please. I think I've covered everything for the most part. We're going to do our beginning Workforce Wednesday webinar polls. Both of them are launched now, so you can take both of them at the same time. The first one is where's your local area, and the second one is which partner do you best represent? So which title you are best representing today, or if you're an other WIOA partner and stakeholder. So while you all are answering that, I will also talk about the last housekeeping thing that we have, which is that tomorrow you will receive a follow-up email with a follow-up survey and the URL link to the recording and presentation. You'll have all of those resources from today's webinar at your fingertips. The follow-up survey will also be put in the chat towards the end of the session by my colleague Molly Cook. That way, if it's while the session is fresh in your mind, you can go ahead and take that follow-up survey. I know I always like to do that. And I believe that's it for housekeeping items. I'm gonna give everyone a couple more seconds to take the poll. It looks like most of us have participated. And Levi, you can go to the next slide if you want to, just to go through them. I'm just going to debrief really quickly. Looks like most of us, we actually have a really great population spanned across the state, which is awesome. We always like to see representatives from all parts of the state. So we have people from Northern Illinois, Central and Southern, and we have 3 people that are joining us statewide, which is great. And we have a lot of our partners today are from Title I and Title III. And then we have some other WIO partners and stakeholders on as well. So I'm going to share those results and you guys can scan those really quickly.
Southern Illinois, woot woot, huh?
Yeah, I'm in Central Illinois, so I see a couple people joining on with me as well. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing those. Thank you for taking those polls there for our analytical purposes. So we appreciate your participation. And then I'm going to hand it off to Levi and Patty to get us started with today's content.
Good morning. I'm Patty Schnorr, and I'm with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and work in the Office of Employment and Training. So if you see some DCEO, OETs, and you're like, what is that acronym? That's what that acronym is. And I'm really excited to be here today. I much more prefer being able to see faces and have some really organic interaction. But hey, I love being here, and we've brought Levi, and it's going to be just some fun and exciting. We just invite you to be curious, to look at some of what this whole system is about, what it affords to you, and just be thinking about, curiously, the possibilities of what the system would be able to incorporate into your daily work as we go through this. I'm going to really just kind of put in the context of what Illinois Employment and Business System is. And then Levi's going to take over from there, and he's going to go into as a power user and as also as someone who was very instrumental in the creation of EBS back when it was just being a thought in minds and a possibility in our minds of, can we do this? He was very strong in the making of EBS, and he's also been one that just keeps challenging the development team, the business analytical team. He champions the users, and to get thoughts churning on, like, what if we had this, and what if we had that, and if we put this with that, what could we do with that information combined? So he's going to have a real applied spin of EBS as we get to his material. So with that, let's just go to that first slide, and I'll give you some background for those who are not familiar as much with Illinois Employment Business System. Next. So empowering integrated business intelligence, that's really what it's about. It's a cloud-based system. It's capable of integrating and interfacing data from multiple data sources. That's something that's not familiar with our older legacy systems and the silos that we're used to. So EBS can do unique things. It can take, and it interfaces most importantly with a Dun and Bradstreet business data. And that does not make EBS a business data tool or a Dun and Bradstreet tool or owned by Dun and Bradstreet. It's owned by DCEO. It's operated by DCEO. And we do all this with a governmental agreement with Southern Illinois. We have technology staff there that create and develop and work with us to create this system. So it integrates relative labor market data. It has local and WARN layoff data, and it allows users to filter and manage and display this interrelated data in real-time dashboards and create extractable business intelligence reports. The ease and accessibility and mobility of EBS allows for on-the-fly data entry of layoff events and being able just to quickly and confidently go to work and connecting and assisting those impacted by layoff to create not just rapid response, but rapid reemployment. Next. So overview of system components. It's a transformative system. It has created a new future for what it means to conduct business outreach and have business together. It brings data and processes and people together, working with businesses and workforce in such a way that they can easily, intuitively, and collaboratively do their work. It's really not rocket science. It was just a bunch of us that got our heads together and said, if you could have a system that puts stuff together so we could have it all in one spot, what would it look like? And what would that be like? And what would it afford me? It affords me, it eliminates the waiting and other bits and pieces of info from emails, online lookups, putting all that stuff together for you. It takes a lot of that busy work out of your work so that you can concentrate on what you really want to do. Next. It's intuitive, it's transparent, it's mobile, and it's practical. It's people are actually having fun with it that use it. And it's not fun, oh, haha. It's fun, like I get to be empowered. I get to look at what's inside the system and put it together. And I'm the boots on the ground. I'm the one that wants to get down there and help these people. So what they need to know, they have. And they can take action quickly and confidently to meet those companies that are laying off employees and offer help to those companies and those employees. They add in their activities and progress of what they're doing, and the others that need to know what's going on can see what's going on. And the other really cool thing that's come out of EBS is that as it's been going and people have adopted it and been using it, they're also realizing that there's some additional things that they can do, which was intended to be. They have been able to use some extra time, I'll put that in air quotes, to use some of the business intelligence in EBS to conduct proactive activities. Like they can look up companies they want to grow. They can see that in the system, and they can find some talent and identify also organizations that are struggling, and they can engage in helping them prior to a layoff. I know that sounds radical, but it's actually happening. There's no longer just that mindset of like, we have to run to a fire and put it out. There's actually the ability now to start looking at the possibility of putting the fires out, getting there ahead of the layoffs. So the other thing is also targeting underserved areas and implementing expansion and outreach in those areas. So what's the underserved area? Well, more and more programs are asking for us, right? And that's what we do. We have people that come and knock on the door and they say, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, well, we don't know, but we'll sure try. So they're asking us to look closer at these geographic areas and populations that are underserved and conduct targeted outreach, right? Intensive services to those areas, bundled services to those areas. So identifying those areas quickly and with accuracy was what the demand was. It was critical to establishing policy and implementing programs. So EBS contains an easy to use and easy to ascertain model of identifying underserved areas. And Levi's going to show you some more of that later on. So I don't have to go into a lot of detail on that one right now, but it's simple as typing in your address, typing in some information, and you get thumbs up and thumbs down. And then also we've expanded that because somebody asked for it. They said, hey, can you put that on a map? Can we get on a map? Can we see if I'm in this area, if it's underserved? Well, yes, you can. So again, it's always expanding, adopting, growing. We're always listening to the users. And because it's in that cloud and because we can conduct agile programming with it, we can keep meeting the demands of the users and expanding the system. Next. So yeah, you heard me say labor market information earlier. We partner up with our employment security people, that Title III people who might be with us today. We go and knock on the door of Marty and say, hey, can we have some back-end data that we can put in there? So one of those is help wanted online. And we don't just put it out there so the people can go see it. We compare it. What do you need to know? Supply and demand. We put the help wanted online data right there with the layoff data. So you can see, oh my gosh, this company is impacted. They're laying off people with the skill set. What's next? Let's find somebody who is like that company in that area and hiring. Simple as that. Next. Predictive analytics and forecasting. As I said earlier, EBS has some Dun and Bradstreet global business data in it. Exactly, it has a lot, over 600,000, I believe, some businesses. Again, Levi's going to tell you a lot more about that. But that data also has in it from Dun and Bradstreet the type of statistical information. So EBS takes the data one step further by directly interfacing with that DMB Illinois business data, and the data is uploaded, it's refreshed quarterly, and it's stored in the system, and it allows for longitudinal and time series of company physical health and historical tools and trajectories. The DMB data goes back to December of 2017. Next. You have company profiles pages and predictive analytics and forecasting. I think I'll skip here to the location quotient, material change. So these particular business analytics, again, are from Dun and Bradstreet. And so I always explain it simply that financial stress score, it just tells you where the business is doing well as far as fiscal management. Are they stressed out? Are they have cash flow? Are they able to pay their bills on time or not? The material change, that tells you what might be going on with that fiscal stress. For example, I might be in stress because I'm trying to expand and grow my business. Or I might be in stress because I really am in serious trouble. I'm declining. I'm having issues. Next. So again, just some more screens that show you. And again, Levi's going to go into more on that. So, but you can all through EBS see easily and clearly and understand fiscal wellness, stability on those company pages. We have organization pages, so you can go into EBS, you can search by a lot of parameters. We keep adding to those. So if you want to search in an area by manufacturing, sales volume, or whether it's a minority owned, you have that ability to do that in EBS. And it brings up that list very quickly from the DNB database. And then you can still drill down and go in those organization pages. Go ahead. Layoff tracking is also very much in EBS. We retired old system, it was called dislocated event tracking system. So that system was retired when we created EBS. We only brought over from that system. It was used for layoff for warrants and local layoffs. The only thing we really brought over from that system was the data. Again, EBS is transformational. We weren't like looking at what debts had and said, let's do it a little bit better. We just took the data over and said, let's make what people really want and need. So layoff and tracking is very much prevalent in EBS. It's the rapid response state and local people who are in there tracking and doing the layoff information within it. Go ahead. There's a map view of things. We have all different kinds of views, charts, maps, you name it. For people like me, I have to see pictures to really understand what I'm looking at. So go ahead, Levi. There's layoff details pages. You could get general info. You can see that big long thing there, but they have all these navigation tools and panes on the sides and everywhere else where you can just keep flipping through, go exactly to where you want to see the company information, the schedule, you name it. It's very easily to navigate in it. Thanks, Levi. Keep going. I'm going to go through these fast because he's going to have more there. Layoff transparency and reporting. Here's just a pic of what we got going on with some of our graphs and charts. We're always aggregating. We're bringing the data to life. We're making visuals that are also able to you're able to go in there and not just have to be what we say you want to look at. You're able to select different filters and change up those different visuals to what you want to see and what you want compared in there. It's also called what we say in responsive design. So if you have never heard that word means that it'll shrink to fit your laptop, your phone, it'll shrink to fit whatever screen you have. So you can be on the fly with your phone in your pocket and be entering in data or looking up Dun and Bradstreet data with EBS. Go ahead. We have internal transparency. And so there's a private side of EBS. Obviously, you need to have a login. You have to be able to get access to it through Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. But we're not all that greedy about it. We have our inside, but we also, next slide, take and we project some of this internal data of EBS to external. So we used to have a really hefty PDF, and Levi's going to talk about that too, and all this other stuff that we had to post on the website. So what EBS allowed us to do is be able to just take and project that internal data that's allowable to be shown to the public and is actually mandatory to be shown to the public. We take it from the inside and we project it out on Illinois WorkNet on the web portal. Next slide. Last, we also went to work with EBS. It was a lot of effort and time and analysis went into a dislocated worker survey back when we created it and launched it in 2020. Prior to this, there might be people, I'm sure, that are still on today that remember that there was a paper copy of survey that was brought out to workshops, and people that were going to be laid off filled it out and kind of got put in a box and brought back and then entered into something. And then that something was disconnected from the system. So we took care of all that. The dislocated worker survey was consolidated, streamlined. It's on the organizational public page. And those that want to fill it in and click submit, that data goes right into EBS. It's on a list of the rapid response teams, and those that are responding to the organization can see it firsthand and get to work on helping those people and giving them assistance. It's one thing I always say that kept reverberating in the conversations when we were creating EBS over and over is the faster that I can get to someone, a business, a dislocated worker, the better it is. And so that's what we're always trying to strive and do with EBS, and just give people the way for them to do their job the best way possible. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Levi. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Patty. Hopefully what Patty gave you is kind of a nice introduction to the system and the process behind it. I want to introduce myself. My name is Levi Bierup. I'm with the Rapid Response Unit, and I work for the Central Region. I represent Bloomington, Peoria, and the northwestern part of Illinois. I think I actually see some of my local colleagues on the line, so that's fun. As Patty talked about, the guiding force behind EBS was to create a layoff recording system using newer technology that was responsive and user-friendly. So as she mentioned in the overview, the system was designed to be adapted. And this kind of allows our team to explore new concepts and new ideas. So in the overview, I think she talked about all the data in the system, and that's where this presentation is more geared toward, is not necessarily how to use the system, but show you what data have and what we can do with it, so you can help make data-driven decisions and kind of come up with new ideas on your own too. The whole point of this is to spark some creativity and possibly, come up with new ideas from the crowd. And I was just talking to Kirsten earlier. When Dr. Julian and Kirsten came to Patty and I about doing this presentation, I was really excited because I told her, this is the TED Talks of DCEO. This means you made it to the big stage. So I'm just happy to be here and to be able to talk to everyone today. Before I talk about the system and the data, I want to walk through the rapid response process and what my team does and what data we put in the system, so you kind of get an understanding of that. As a DCEO representative, most of my activities are primarily directed by the WARN Act. And if you're interested, it's the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Act of 1988. With that act, there's certain requirements that we have to do. One of them is that companies with a certain amount of employees are required to give us notice 60 days before a layoff. DCEO is the recipient of those notifications, and we have to record and respond to those, hold workshops. There's a lot of activity that we have to do that's involved with that. And as mentioned, this act started in 1988. So in the system, you will see data going all the way back to that 1988 date. What I have in here is just a list of activities that we do. Next, I'm going to talk about some of the data we put in the system. And since 1980 up to current date, you can see on the screen a couple columns here. The left-hand column there represents the amount of data in the system. And you can see we have almost 8,000 total events in the system. And for those who might not be completely familiar with rapid response, an event is essentially just a layoff that the department received notification from an official or other source. And so you see the next two columns, we have numbers showing, we've had over 5,000 from official notifications, which are called WARN notices, and about 2,400 from other sources, which could be media, anything like that. And just to give an idea of how much data and how much people we work with, you can see there's over 878,000 reported layoffs in the system. Another part of our job is we talk to the companies, we collect supplemental notices, and oftentimes workers get recalled. We do put those in the system, and you can see 121,000 of those workers being recalled. We also put in layoff dates, layoff schedules, a lot of other things. So just so you know, this is not an all-inclusive list of the data put in there. It's just to give you an idea of the breadth of data that we have in the system. Now, I bring up the amount of data because we were talking about WARN reports. Part of the WARN Act says these are public information. Anything reported to us has to be made available to the public. Going back, as far as we can remember, our WARN reports have been submitted monthly, but they're in the form of PDFs, and you can see that on the left-hand side of the screen there. So it was a PDF document that listed all the information, which is actually, it was a fine process. It worked for a lot of time. A lot of the country still does that. And to be made public, we put them on my WorkNet, and you can see there on the right-hand side, those are by year with hyperlinks to each month. As you can imagine, all this information is FOIable. And I used to be one of the people that had to respond to these FOIA requests. So if someone came to me and said, for instance, I want to see all the layoffs for Southern Illinois during this time period. I'd be the one pouring through this. And it was a time-consuming job, really, you know? And so with EBS, this is one of the things that kind of developed along the way is Patty, you know, has this mind about making things better and how can do better. And one of the concepts she came up was the Warren dashboard. And this is actually pretty cool because this is something that is a first in the nation thing that we're doing, you know, that really helps make transparency and reporting available. And so what you see here is called the Warren dashboard, and this is publicly available on Illinois WorkNet. Anyone can log in and see this. And what you're seeing are official notifications our department has received, and we're reporting them out. Right at the top, for transparency's sake, we put workshops conducted, and this is real data. So you can see in the last 6 months, our team has done 103 workshops. And the past 12 months, we've done 165. You should see on the far right-hand side, there's a virtual job fairs conducted in the last 12 months. This is a new concept that came out during the COVID era. It was really difficult to get on site or connect with workers due to the isolation. So with the virtual job fairs, we were able to take companies and connect them in a virtual platform where people could actually come online and do a job fair virtually, which is a neat concept, you know? And so it's just taking DCEO's web presence and expanding it to allow more people to take advantage of our services. I also show on here that you see there's a list of companies. All those companies are hyperlinked. So if you were to click on one of those companies, it would take you to a company page, which I'm going to show you later. And that's for the impacted workers, so they can see information about the event. Also at the top, if someone were to submit a FOIA or they were interested in finding something, we have filters, so you can filter by company name, date range, industry area. There's all sorts of filters. And all of this is exportable to a table that can be sorted just for you. So that's what we're doing now. Right here, this is an example of one, the company page. If there were a layoff, these company pages are generated automatically when there's a warn. And I'm going to walk through this in detail later, but just know there's a lot on here that's helpful for the public and expands our outreach. One final thoughts I want to give on warn reports is, I mentioned the 800,000 plus workers, the 500,000 or the 6,000 plus events. There's an exportable feature in this system, so you can take that data, put in a flat file or an Excel file, and you're able to sort that information any way you want, by industry, by type of layoff, whatever. And it's all at the tip of your fingertips. So instead of having someone like me pour through all these records and put something together, it can be easily exported and done with what you will. I show on the right-hand side, there's summarized information. Anytime you do an export of this, it's going to give you a summary of how many layoff events there were, what percentage of the industry that represented, and how many expected layoffs. So you get a nice little summary of information right there. And that's a quick summary of my rapid response process and about the war notices and what we used to do and what we're doing now. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat about that. I'd be happy to address those if there are. If not, we can move on and talk about some of the trade data.
One of the things, Levi, and you were sitting side by side with me back in the day, like, again, making your life easier, like just what he was showing there about those extractable reports prior to EBS, and a way of business a lot still with technology that we have at the state is that in order to get a list like that, you have to send an email to a programmer. You have to ask the programmer, like, this is what I want to see. Can we pull something out of the database to see that? And then it takes, you know, a day, maybe 2 days sometimes. And then you get an email back with an Excel spreadsheet attached to it. And then Excel spreadsheet, when you look at it, you can't just send it right away because it has to be looked through, and there might be some null things in there or other things. And so EBS, we got that all cleared up. We got that streamlined. So again, that's that empowerment part of the users, like being able to just like do things when they want to do it, not have to sit and wait so they can take action. But thank you.
Right. And so I just talked about the WARN Act. Another program DCEO administers is the Trade Adjustment Assistance Act, commonly referred to as TRADE. It's more strict and has a lot more requirements than WARN has. And so one of the things EB's done, it's actually made trade data more accessible and created a lot of new ways we can analyze this data. And this is where the presentation starts getting cool. So right here, this slide is just a quick export of trade data and service counts on here. So anyone that's worked in IWDS, it can be stressful running reports. It can be stressful trying to get the information you need exactly. This is something I pulled out of EBS with just one simple push of a button. And this is actual trade data that's probably just a couple weeks old, but it's just here to represent what you have. So you can see in our system, we have about 1,000 trade events recorded in there. And one thing you can see here is that we have over 1,300 trade workshops we've conducted and have been recorded in the system. And that accounts for 978 total participants that have been enrolled in trade in the state of Illinois. One way that EBS kind of upped the game is Patty and her team actually connected our EBS system, which is our rapid response tracking system, to our case management system. So if you go to one of those pages, you can actually see how many people have received training services, how many people are actively participating in training. And another cool feature is with the integration of Dun and Bradstreet data, which contains NAICS and industry data, you can actually see what industry those trade events are in. And this is where it gets kind of cool because you're going to see now that you're going to be able to visualize trade data in a way you never have. And just as you can see on this map or this thing right here, manufacturing represents over almost 70% of trade impacted events in Illinois. The next two closest are wholesale trade and professional services. So let's go ahead and just kind of look at what EBS can do with this data and help you analyze it. So first thing you see on here, this is pulled from EBS. On the left-hand side in our system, you see if you search for trade events, it's just a simple list form, right? But on the right-hand side, we're taking that list and we're creating mappable data. So when searching for trade events, you not only have access to the table with links, but they also have a map that shows you where the events took place. Patty was mentioned earlier that visual data is sometimes better for some people. And when you're looking at this, yeah, it shows you events, but it says it doesn't show much. Well, this is another innovation that I think EBS kind of upped the game a little bit one more time, is we've introduced the concept of heat maps. So when you're looking at the screen right here, the map on the lower left-hand side, those are certified trade petitions from 1988 to 2023. Those dot points really don't tell a story, but if you look on the map on the right-hand side, this is the exact same data, but it just shows heat map concentrations of where these events took place. And when you look at this, it really does start to tell a story. You can see right up there in the Chicago area, I mean, it looks like a Doppler map where there's so much activity. And the same thing for St. Louis, some of the major metropolitan areas. But this is all trade certifications, okay? I think we can get a little bit better by drilling down. And this is something the system's also good is helping you be able to drill down to very specific information. So what I did here is I took all the industries impacted by trade and I've separated them. So manufacturing on the far right-hand side, that counts for 70% of trade activity. When you look at the map on the far right-hand side, you can see where the manufacturing events are distributed. And one thing I noticed on this map, all the service corridors, you can see there's a high impact right there. Professional and technical services, you can see again, Chicago is highly impacted, but one thing you might not be able to see is right here in Bloomington and Springfield, there's a lot of trade impacted events. And I don't know if you know anything about Bloomington, that's actually my hometown where I live. State Farm, Country Financial, it's big financial services industry, and something I'm actually going to talk about a little bit later as well. And then finally, on the far left side is wholesale trade. And once again, St. Louis, Chicago, and the Davenport, those areas right there. And if you wanted to, you could even drill down further, but this is just a way to show, if you wanted to see how a certain industry impacted Illinois, you could quickly put it on the map and just get a quick look. Now, the trade program I mentioned earlier, there's some pretty stringent requirements. We are required to conduct outreach to every individual impacted by trade. We have to do the workshops. They have to be notified their benefits, rights, and obligations. And we have to track each program participant. And then we have to maintain a specific set of documents on file when we have trade participants. With the company page, there's a way we can capture all this information and expand our outreach to customers that may not have attended the workshop, at least get them notified of it. And I'm going to go through this a little bit further, but I just want to point out again, the company pages has a lot of uses for us. I'll pause one more time just to see if there's any questions regarding the trade features on there. Okay, no, looks like we're good. So I'm going to walk through the EBS company page right now. And the EBS company page, I keep saying it, cool feature, cool feature. Well, there's a lot of cool features in EBS, and the company pages I use quite a bit. And I do want to point out there are some LWIAs that are doing fantastic work with their company pages. LWIA 6, I know you've been doing a great job. Susie here up there is fantastic. But let's walk through the company page and show you what this does. So when we get a warn notice, the system automatically generates a company page. And one of the benefits of the company page is this is a public-facing page. So if you were to go to illinoisworknet.com, there's a layoff assistance page. All the companies on there, you can easily pick your company and go to this and see this. When I do workshops myself, what I do is I create the URL link for these company pages and hand them out on flyers. And before I go any further, I want to mention out with the company page, we have a new feature that lets you create a short customizable URL. So now when you walk out there, you have a relevant short URL that makes sense. They're usually formatted like layoffs.worknet.com/whatever custom name you want to get. So the customer comes to this page and they're first greeted with this map. You see there's a couple pins on the map. The red pin is the layoff location, which is kind of hidden under the bubble there. And that yellow pin is actually the location where the customer could receive services. So when they log in, the first thing they do is like, here's a pin, and they click on it and it gives them information about that location. Going down a little bit further, when workshops are scheduled or we plan workshops, we can actually put this outreach workshop blue box on the page. And you can see right there, it shows a couple things. It shows the event times. You can also offer in different languages and have those languages shown on there. You can also put a webinar link or a call-in number or information about how to get to that as well. Also, after we conduct our workshops, there's a place where you can put the workshop recording on there. Anyone who's rapid response knows it's hard to get 100% attendance to any workshop. So afterwards, if we could put the recording on there, spread that information out, you know, Rory, I just saw that. Yeah, I appreciate you guys there. Anyways, so after that, you can put, you know, your recording on there, hand it out to the other management there and make sure it gets out to the rest of the staff. You know, you're just trying to expand your outreach. And on that note, I think one of the things that LWIA 6 does that I liked was they have from layoff to launch, I believe it's called. It's a workshop, and they use Canva to put these promotional flyers on the page, and it says layoff to launch every Tuesday, da, da, da. So when someone comes to this page, they know automatically, oh, here's a simple resource for me. It's a way for you to advertise your services. Next on here, you'll see we have on the page a location finder. So if someone logs on the page, we do show them a pin closest to their work location. But in this day and age, I mean, we have remote workers, we have people that are commuting long ways, things like that. We give them an option on this page to just quickly search for an area. So you see a box there, someone could enter their address and it'll automatically bring up instant referrals of where they can receive services. When we do workshops, we sometimes bring out PowerPoints to talk about our services, but also unemployment insurance has presentations they bring out too. As you know, there's a lot of questions about unemployment, and the presentations they have provide a lot of great information. And we get asked a lot, you know, hey, can we get a copy of that? Not everyone living at home has access to Microsoft Office. So what we've done is we included a slide share feature. And the slide share feature just lets us put this PowerPoint out there so anyone can access that if they want to. So we have that ability as well. Now, coming down to this point, this is something called the resource packet. The resource packet is just what it is. Whenever we got to event, we create these packets of papers, hand out all the materials like that. We can go in here and put them on there. So in the event of a trade like this one, you can see I've attached a BRO, the trade petition, termination letter, handouts from the workshop, general brochure. So if someone were directed to this page, they could easily find any of the handouts you presented on there. Right now, I think Illinois WorkNet supports 8 different languages. IDS had the most common languages they provided, so we support that for uploading documents on there. LWIAs, any rapid response practitioners can go in here, add files if you have access to that event. Finally, we create a link to Illinois Job Link and our Skills First Resume service. You know, So we give them a couple links. Hey, create or update your resume here. And we have a link to unemployment insurance information. So every time I do a workshop, I'm really, really careful and explain to people to make sure that you are actually going to the correct IDS website. Since COVID, there have been a lot of browser hacks, redirects, where someone could go and search unemployment insurance in Google and be redirected to a different site. So this right here gives you an accurate, safe, correct link to get here, and a couple links to show questions about how to submit a UI claim. The job fairs I mentioned earlier, every page has a link to the virtual job fair, so a customer can go and check that out as well. And then finally on our company page, we have what's called just the free use space. Typically when I do a workshop, I create a Canva thing that, contact to apply or certify for benefits and put the UI phone number on there, or sometimes the LWIA's information on there. It's just for you. It's just another way to tell your customers, hey, this is where you can go to get information. And the whole idea of the company pages, we work with so many partners, Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, work rehab, USDOL. It's one single place that a customer can go and get all the information they need at once. And if there's follow-up requests, even sometimes through the company, I can simply say, yes, tell your customers or tell your workers everything's on the company page and located here. Next, I want to talk about customer surveys. Customer surveys is, this is it's been a topic of dissent for a long time in DCEO about how do we go about this? How do we do this? I know Patty tells this horror story about one time she walked in you want to tell that story, Patty, about the box? I like when you talk about that.
The box. Really quickly. I had just started the job I'm in with OET, and I'm in my office and I'm learning the ropes. And there was somebody who came into my office, just like knock, knock. They just need some space. And they said, I have this box. I'm on the road. Do you mind if I just put it in your office? And I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. Don't really know who you are, what you're doing, but that's fine. As long as it doesn't explode. So anyway, the box sat there for a few days, and I was kind of like, I wonder what's in it. My curiosity always going. And the long story short here is I realized that the box had surveys in it, and I'm like, customer surveys, how come they're sitting here? And so that's what got my inquiry going on what's going on with these, because we don't want them sitting anywhere. We want people taking action on them. So that's that story.
That story right there is a pretty good example of the old method of surveys. So there was really never a handle of how the surveys should be collected, responded to, or even used. So we had paper surveys, but they were varying lengths. Some were 8 pages long, some were 1. The results had to be hand counted. They had to be maintained somehow. There was just no standardization. And as Patty said, if there's surveys sitting in a box, they're not doing you any good. And another problem.
I would add too, it was not by the person the person was an outstanding, incredible employee. It wasn't by any means anything to do with that. It was just that, like Levi's alluding to, they were so cumbersome, and you could not aggregate any data on them. You could, salary, what's your salary? So people would put in, well, here's my hourly. Another one put in their annual. Another would put in just an amount, so you can't aggregate. When you put that in a system, you can't add that up. So that's one of the things we were really looking for, is to make it streamlined, quick, fast, and be able to aggregate that data. Why? Because when you can aggregate it, you can make a chart, you can make a graph, you can come up with some data that you can put on a map.
Yeah, and I think the other thing here is with paper surveys, you were only capturing the people that actually came to the workshops. So you weren't getting everyone. So with the new method, and this was a long process, is a digital survey was created. And it was created so that it was a guided online survey. It was a little bit shortened. It had standardization, and it even has a referral feature. And the best part is, since it's online and it's out there on the web, more people could potentially find it that are associated with the company and follow up on your survey. And so let's walk through the survey and show you some of the benefits of it. So this is an actual example of what a customer survey looks like. So when a person logs on here, they see their company name and they see the fields they got to fill out. And you see it's pretty simple: first name, last name, and using an address, tied to Google. and ask for a phone number, an email, and then it has the "Are you a veteran?" question. That's just a screening question for priority of service people as well. And there's a disclaimer on there telling you, hey, we're going to protect your information, but contact you for services. So when they go through the survey, this is a screenshot of the top of the page. It is just one page long, but these are just a few of the questions. We ask basic questions like petition, what's your position title, last day of work, how many hours did you work there? And as Patty mentioned, with the salaries are all over the place. There's a drop down there. So if they know what their biweekly pay is, they put that. They know their hourly pay, they put that. Annual, they put that. The system doesn't care. It's going to calculate, aggregate that data, and make it all concise for you in the end. Education levels, license, and you can see here's some screening questions about how the agency could help you. What are your plans? What do you need help with? How much are you willing to commute? Now, in the past, the customer filled out the survey, handed and be done. Here's a really cool step that this EVS has taken. When the customer presses finish, the first thing they're going to see is an instant referral. So we're telling them, thank you for filling out your survey. And based on the address the customer fills in, it says, here's who we recommend you contact right away. So instead of waiting around for someone, the customer can be proactive and say, oh my gosh, I want help. Here it is right here. So I think that's a great comfort for the customers, knowing they could easily just answer a couple of questions and right away be told, here's who you should call. It's easy, it's self-service for them, and it's pretty much intuitive right there. Now, we don't just stop there. Patty took this a few extra steps, all right? When I log in, or an LWEA representative logs in, or someone that does rapid response, on the workflow dashboard, and I'm sure anyone who's attended an EBS technical assistance webinar on Tuesday knows about these, is we talked about this. The workflow dashboard will show you, hey, these are the customers who've submitted surveys. These are the dates they submitted from, and this is where they're from. So I could just click in here, and you can see on the right-hand side, it looks like a little referral card. It shows the name of the worker, in this case, it's me. It shows the address, which is 100 East Randolph Street, Chicago, and phone number, email for me. And then on the bottom, there's just a little bit of information about what I'm interested in. So all those questions I answered on the survey, it's going to pile those up on the screen for me. And one thing that's just done is we keep taking this map feature and expanding on it. So now if I'm the representative, I can look on this map here. You see on the right-hand side, there's a little blue building icon. That's the employer, okay? Then you see those little yellow pins. Those are all the providers that we have with services. And then most importantly, we have the address of the person that submitted the survey. Now you can see there's multiple locations near the employer, but they're not close to the employee. So coming in here, I could look and see this is your location. I can quickly put on a pin and say, this is the area you need to go to. So it's like a one-stop source referral system for you. So you don't need to flip through your notebook, find what the center is, go to a different website. It's all right here for you. Now I'm going to move on to some data next. I'm
going to jump in 1 second, Levi, because the other cool thing, if you brought that up, that I want to say is like the other thing that we're moving towards with maps like that is we can see like the commuting distance of what the person was willing to drive to go to work. And then we can also, like when I was saying earlier, look for those like businesses that are hiring. Like sometimes what happens is if people gets a shorter commute at the same similar job, higher salary. I mean, there are a lot of success stories that come out of this work that we're trying to tell more and more. And the other thing that was on my mind, Levi, was as we're going through the company page, it even just occurred to me now with your sharing is that, and I just want to acknowledge all those on here that are really going to work and putting and adding data and information and slides and posting things on those pages, because that's what it was all about. And I, as a person that's laid off, I've always thought how much anxiety, how much like everything they're going through. I can't even think clearly to have a resource like that, but also to see that there's something relevant, something new on there, to me would give me that little bit of like, oh, I get it. This isn't just static and it's refreshed, and I'm going to be able to get to the people I need to get to. And the one last caveat on that is that when you're going through, one of the key things on that survey that's behind the scenes is that that permission checkbox is in there. A lot of times information is gathered from the public and it comes in and it's all stored nicely and we're able to aggregate in the background, but we're not able to really do a whole lot with it or do that outreach with that person because we need that permission from them to actually do that. So that sounds again like a real simple step or something that should be obvious, but it hasn't been that obvious in the past. And so having that little checkbox gives that autonomy to those people at Rapid Response and those who see it to be able to take that action to reach out to, I think, was it Danger McAction that was the test person there. So that's some of that action that can be taken on those small little things and those details. Thanks.
Yes, Danger McAction is my alter ego I use for all testing environments, just so you know. So, all right. So up to this point, I've kind of discussed the rapid response side of EBS mostly. One of the, I think, more interesting design features of EBS is the system was developed to kind of leverage and aggregate all this data that can create this tool to help you make data-driven decisions. And so a lot of the data we bring in, it doesn't just help rapid response, but it's been used by planning units, policy units, outside legislative contexts have asked us, what data EBS can help us with this. And so I'm going to kind of walk through this and you're going to see a lot of maps, you're going to see a lot of information, and just kind of think about how this might apply to you and how I could use this. So let me make sure I'm hitting the right buttons here. So labor market data sources. We have a lot of data in EBS. As Patty mentioned, Dun and Bradstreet brings in over 600,000 individual companies and data related to that company. That data includes their industry, NAICS, whether they're minority owned, and certain financial and business information about them as well. Now, we also connect to unemployment, IDS, to bring in unemployment rates. We connect with BLS to bring in some QCEW data. We also bring in the Help Wanted Online data. And I know you can get Help Wanted Online and data on IDS's LMI website right now, but we've done something a little bit different than I think you'll like. And then also we have census tract information. And census tract information is kind of be, I think, the coup d'etat, this presentation. I don't know if I'm using that word right, but this is the one that's a big point of emphasis now, identifying underserved areas. And then finally, I'm going to talk about some of the location quotients. So let's dive in here. So QCEW data. So this is source BLS data. And there's a couple of data sets we have on this map. One is the employment gain loss, and the other is location quotient. So what you're seeing on the map here is we're looking at the 1-year employment gain loss for the leisure and hospitality industry. Now, this has been used by the planning unit in the past to kind of help identify, where the industry growth is, where they might need help, and it's updated upon request. So it's not like we're getting real-time data in here, but during the regional planning process or DCEO planning process, our planning unit might come in and say, hey, can you please update this page? So we can just take a quick look and see, what areas we need to be identifying. And on the map, you can see, the blue shows employment gain, the red shows employment loss. We have table sets for all this too. So it's not just a map. You can actually get a table of the data as well. And anyone's done planning or something like that, it's one thing to look at an Excel sheet and, highlight the rows. This kind of helps target your search. And that's going to be a theme of EBS is we help focus the search and kind of focus your attention on what needs that. Now, I mentioned QCEW before. Now we're going to talk about location quotients. I know location quotients are something interesting. I think in 2016, we had a regional roundtable in Edwardsville, and we introduced location quotients and the bubble graphs, and people really kind of fascinated by that because, it showed your industry specialization. It showed, what areas, is manufacturing vital to, is real estate vital to, or whatever, So it's another way to show, these are the areas that are specialized in that industry. I have financial activities on here, and I chose that one specifically because I live in Bloomington, Illinois, and I just wanted to pull up because I figured in Bloomington it would be a blue, and it is, because as I mentioned, State Farm, Country Financial, Farm Bureau, we're financial activity central. So is Chicago, And I'm going to use a screen later on for an example, but I just want to show, this is a helpful way to get a quick view of what industries are specialized in your region. And again, there are tables connected to this. Yes, thank you, Patty. We do source data on here, and when it is sourced, we do, I think, have areas on here where we mentioned is sourced from this location, so there's no question about this. Unemployment rates. We pull in unemployment rate data as well. This does stay updated. Now, you get a clear, quick map with this. Now, we can sort this by county, which it currently is now, LWIA or EDR, and it kind of just quickly helps show you at a quick glance, what areas are having that issue. Unemployment rate is part of the underserved area search requirements. So just know this is one of the things on here. We also have chart data available for this as well. Those are just some of the quick LMI features. I don't know if there's any questions about that. I know there's more you can do with that. No, you can filter down, get more precise, which I'll show later.
Yeah, and like Levi said, he's dead on. It was sitting at some not rapid response, but those round tables, regional round tables. And we used to have a whole bunch of people on deck that we could bring into a room, data statisticians, economists, you name it, and we put our heads together and what data do we want to create, and charts and graphs and forms. And so we print all that and we put it in a package and we take it to those amazing conversations and collaboration with so many intelligent people that were working together and have just these outstanding conversations. And then we leave, right? And so I looked at those tables and graphs and I was just like, oh my gosh, like we need to bring those to life for people because we need to have these conversations and they're going on. We know they are, but be able to have some live, some organic information there for them, not just once in a time and here and there, but continually. And so, and by no way, shape or form did we go into EBS and say, we're going to recreate all this LMI data that exists in the world. Heck no, like IDS can do that all day long. They're the specialists in that. What we want to do is look at like what we're in people's hands. What is the most pertinent data? Be able to bring that right again to EBS so that I can look at the labor market information while I'm looking at the layoff, while I'm looking at some business intelligence and predictive analytics. So I don't have to go click in another website to bring in a chart to pull up a graph to have that separately. And that was the big deal about bringing the LMI into EBS.
That's a good example. And I'm going to use another one later about the click, because there's a lot of that used to happen. Now, company data, this is actually one that is new to us and I think is new territory, but I think is something that has a lot of potential. During the process of the EBS development, we sat down with a lot of business service reps. God bless Todd Lowry. He was so patient with us, bringing that room every other day. And we asked them, what do you guys do and how do you do it, And, we heard a lot of different things, we drive around, we look at the paper, we cold call, but we realize, Dun and Bradstreet does have some predictive analytics tools, and, they can maybe help us target our search a little bit or focus our search like I talked about. And I want to talk about some of those predictive analytics indicators they have in there. So as Patty mentioned, there's a couple of different indicators that Dun and Bradstreet has. There's material change scores, and there is financial stress scores. So starting with material change scores, you can see they have 10 different, what they call categories. They're labeled A through I. So material change really refers to an event, an occurrence, change in conditions, circumstances management, something that is causing the company to either have a positive or negative impact on their material production or operations. I'll explain that a little bit later. Financial stress is just like it says, it's an indicator of potential failure in a company. The way it was explained to me, when you see 5, that's an indication the company is almost bound to fail. When you look at this, 3 and 4, those are the ones where you're focused on because that's where the boat could turn around at any point. And so this is kind of how we're going to help direct your search a little bit. You might be asking yourself, okay, I see increasing scale, increasing demand, early signs of decay. What does that even mean? A while back, I did sit down with some of the D&B staff, some of our economists, and just kind of ask some questions about, what do these mean? And so for like spend growth, if a company's indicated as spend growth, oftentimes that can mean the company is in a research and development stage. I said stage, that's funny. Research and development stage, and they're likely spending money to try to improve themselves, or they could be put in a new product line, something along that line. So it gives you an indication of what's happening at the company. Decrease in scale, just like it says, they might have lost a production line. I saw that happen once. I saw a company decrease in scale, turned around, they've been using 100-year-old lines and one broke down. So now they were kind of forced themselves to increase production on the others. Increase in borrowing. So this shows that possibly a company may be trying to expand, maybe trying to add new products lines, maybe asking for capital for improvements, anything along that lines. And then early signs of decay, this is another one. This is a kind of a negative one. It shows a company that might have a failing business model, might not have innovated in a long time. It could also mean the company has just lost some contracts or lost some businesses. And when you look at these, you don't look at them as silo, you need to look at them together. So we sat down a long time ago, and I believe Nick Mender was the fellow's name at FDR. And he sat down, he showed us, when you combine these two, you're going to see either an opportunity for retention or an opportunity for growth with the company. And so when you're in a system, you look at these, it's good to put two of them together to give you an idea what's going on with the company. And so, like, here's one example. If you see a company that has increase in demand, but high financial stress score, that can mean there's a company, they have a product, it's in big demand, but they just don't have the necessary production space or capacity to put out that product. So maybe now they're bringing in outside contractors to assist with work, trying to do something else, overtime, whatever. They're spending money trying to meet this demand, okay? So you can see there's an issue there. Going further down, if you see increase in borrowing and high financial stress, that's an indication the company's failing. There could be potential for layoff. Another one is decrease in demand and low, high stress. That's a declining industry. Think of rotary phones. Someone's making them somewhere, but the demand's down. So you're likely to see that company in that phase. But this is just here to show that there's many ways to put these together to tell the story about a company. If you're interested in that more, that's something we could talk about on those Technical Systems Tuesdays. But this is where I think you can get creative and kind of help identify companies in need. And I'm going to expand on this a little more just now. So we were talking about location quotients, right? And we're talking about financial activities. Now, I know Bloomington is very specialized in that, but I got curious because I saw Stevenson County on here, which is right there on the western tip of Illinois. And I have to admit, I don't know anything about Stevenson County. So I said, you know what, let me take a deep dive into Stevenson County using the data we have in the system and kind of understand, this financial activities industry a little bit better. So here's some data I pulled from the system. In Stevenson County, I learned there's about 2,200 companies, and almost 200 fall into that category of financial activities. I went one further and said, okay, how many companies reside in an underserved census tract? And there's 22 of those. And I went one further and I said, okay, based on our material change and financial stress scores, which one of those are in trouble? And it brought down to 4 companies. And so I think the point I'm trying to illustrate here is EBS, it's not just going to sit there and pump out a list and say, here's the companies in trouble, But if you go in here and put the clues together, you can create a really well-defined focus list to find what you need. And I think I joke with Patty all the time about what is EBS, and I make all these silly metaphors for it, I like to think of EBS as Scooby and the gang, EBS is like the mystery machine. We're going around solving crimes, I'm Fred, Patty's Velma, and here we are. Scoop and the gang never made a single arrest in their entire time. But what they did was they gave the clues and handed off to the police. And they said, it's you, Mr. McGillicuddy, you're the bad guy. Well, that's what we do, okay? And that's what we kind of link of it is. So I just hope this shows, if you're looking and you're trying to go out there and cold call on what businesses are in need, this is a way you can really narrow down your focus and try to find those businesses. Now, I don't know if there's any questions on that. I got a couple segments left, but I know that one might have brought some interest. I'm going to take a water.
where we're going with that again is EBS is never really complete or done, is that the exploration in the last I think it's been about a year now. So we keep adding business service partners throughout the state, business service users of EBS. And so they have the ability to do that exploration, ask those questions. And then when we get together and have those conversations and we see what they're doing, one of the next areas we want to really look at is like, how could we collect and retain and make more screens, right? Make more navigation, make ways that what Levi just put together in there, a way that anybody can come in, put that together and see those 4 or 5 pins and go to work on having a phone call and collecting, not at the level of a Salesforce or a real robust customer managed relations system, but at a high level of like, you know, what's going on here? What business have been touched by whom, by when, what services were offered to them, the businesses, the employer services, and what was some of the basic outcomes and results? What were you effective, right? Effectiveness in serving employers or not?
And so talking about that, this is just one quick slide. We have over 608,000 companies pulled in from Dun and Bradstreet and their information about that. And so that means you're going to see material change scores, financial stress scores. So there's a lot of data in there for you to analyze. And I'm not going to go through this. This is just to show you, this is a quick look at Illinois industry profile that I downloaded from EBS a couple of weeks ago. You can see top of list professional technical services, and the second biggest industry in Illinois, because it's Illinois, is government. So that's kind of a quick look, and you can see, this is what Illinois industrial profile looks like. And remember, with the system, you can filter and drill down to smaller and smaller local levels. Now, this is what I consider to be the heart of the presentation. And actually, I think this is one of the most innovative features I've seen in EBS. There's been a lot of emphasis placed on equity and identifying underserved areas, and rightly so. And I think one thing that EBS has done that just has blown my mind away is we almost put equity and put it on a map almost. So I'm going to tell a little story, and it's going to kind of highlight how EBS pointed out inequity. So follow me here. So I can't remember the year, but Patty got a call from some legislators, and they were asking about a social equity program, okay? And there was an ask. They wanted a spreadsheet of underserved areas, and they had 4 requirements they gave Patty. They said they want to know every census tract, and just so you know, a census tract could be as little as just 1 block or as big as 1 county, depending on the area. There are a lot of census tracts in Illinois, and if you look at that map, all those little areas, those are census tracts. You see those little orange areas? Those are what are called underserved areas based on certain conditions. Well, the ask was to give a list of census tracts where there was 20% of the population on public assistance, 8% of the population was unemployed, 25% were below the poverty rate, and 75% or 70% of students were on free school lunch. Now, I always like working with Patty because she always one-ups everything and has this brilliant mind that does such cool stuff. And what she did was she goes, yeah, I'm going to give you a list, but you know what? Here's a map too. And the map, I think, actually influenced Illinois policy. And here's why. I'm going to start with the spoiler, okay? The spoiler is they dropped the 70% on free school lunch requirement. It got cut out of the legislation. Why? Well, here's the city of Chicago. And here's what the map looks like without the 70% free school lunch component, okay? You can see some areas qualify, some don't. You know, it's a mixed bag. Well, the question is, why did we take that 70% out? Well, it turns out Chicago Public School free lunch school data is aggregated into 1 district, which is all the city of Chicago. So had we left the 70% of school students on free school lunch, the entire city of Chicago would have qualified as an underserved area. Now, if you know anything about Chicago, a lot of those areas are a little bit more financially well off and definitely don't meet those requirements. So in essence, had that stood, you could have had people in areas that shouldn't qualify benefiting from the burdens of others. And so when I think of that, I like to say that this is a great example of how EBS can identify equity by just putting in some certain issues. Now, obviously, this is a new feature, this is something new, but, I just think it's really cool how we can take this data, visualize it, and make decisions saying, wow, that didn't work, but this does. Going a little bit further, let's talk about what we can do with these census tracts and this underserved area data. Patty mentioned earlier, there's an underserved area search tool in the system, and this is an actual screenshot of the system. So when you log into the system, the first thing it does is it brings up this search box for location, and it populates the map here. And you have two options. You can put in an address or a location. So I could type in my address, or you could type in, the Walmart and normal, or I could just click on a census tract that I see orange or white and see details about it. Now, when you go to a census tract, you're given a lot of information. First of all, you can see on the left, you get detailed information about what the census tract ID is, where it's at, and then you get information about the poverty rate, public assistance, and the unemployment rate. Now you see there's a green thumbs up, red thumbs down. Those are indicators of whether or not this location would qualify. So you see right here, this specific location qualifies because there are 9.2% people unemployment, which would be this one. And so the overall qualification is yes. So it's a quick visual saying yes or no. Now, I know a lot of local areas out there, especially administrators or case managers know, I'm trying to think of the Teagle, it's like Teagle 2616, but that Teagle shows you how to identify if someone lives in an underserved area. So a lot of the local areas for youth have this thing, it's called a youth need additional assistance. And one of the parameters for most of those is lives in a high poverty area. Well, in the past, what you'd have to do is you'd have to go to one system, look up the address, find the census tract, log into another system, put the census tract in there and go through about 4 or 5 pages of data just to find that. Well, now with the click of the button, we go straight here. And I want to go to the next screen to show that, not only just do we give you the data, but you can see we source the data. So you can see right now, this is coming from census.gov. So this is within the last 5 years. The supplemental notice program, that comes from the SNAP program. And then we have the census rate data, so we're sourcing all the data right there. So easily typing an address, easily looking up something or clicking on a map, you can get all your information about whether that area is underserved or not right there.
And that's actually taken directly from a statute, right? All of everything we do in the state, we have legal statutes, the ILCS, Illinois statutes that we have to follow. So poverty rate and those percentages then that they're facilitating through the discussions, and then they come up with yep, this is how it's going to be. So in that instance, that was the percentage of poverty rate, percentage for SNAP, percentage for unemployment. And we're so lucky to have so many brilliant minds, like Levi's, like those that are in the development and the business analysts that help. It's a small team at SIU and Illinois WorkNet, but we're mighty. And then in this case, there was an or in there. It was like you didn't have to have all 3 thumbs up. You only had to have 1 out of the 3. And so that's all that's going on in the background. It's just picking that, doing that, and calculating it up.
Yeah, just quick data-driven decisions right there. And so the final piece I want to talk about, we have some resources that could be useful for county board members and CEOs. I don't think this is necessarily intended for them. I use this all the time, but it's helpful information to get a quick grip on what's going on in my county, LWIA, or EDR. So in the system, I have something I like to call the county report card. There's an area you can click and it will give you all kinds of LMI data about your area. So I have the CALB on the screen right here. Sorry to pick on you, LWIA 5 is the first one I selected. But when you go in here, the first thing you're going to see is you're going to have an option to look at unemployment data. As you can see, you can filter down by just certain months. You can choose certain years to see, and you can even put your compare your unemployment rate data by United States average rate, Illinois average rate, another counties, or an EDR. So it really lets you kind of focus in on your unemployment data and see, visually what it looked like. And if everyone looks there, that big jump right there, that was the COVID area. Now, we don't just give it to you visually, you also get a table. So anytime you see a visual graph on there, you're going to have a table associated with it. As I mentioned, location quotients, those are also in the system here too. Before we had just the map that showed you the dark light. Well, now we're going to put the bubble graph on here and also give you the table of data to go along with that. Now, Patty talked about the help wanted online data earlier. What EBS did is we compile that data and we store it. So right now you're seeing the January 2023 data. If you want to go back and look in the past and look and see what it was, you can do that. But I think what I like about the Help One Online data and what's good use is that's showing you what's happened in your EDR. So on the right-hand side there, you have the employer, okay? So Aurora Healthcare has 907 online jobs. And I think when we talked to Patty, this is a system they go through and scrub through and take out junk posts and stuff like that and find out what's actually out there. So not only are you hearing what the employer is, you're showing what they're hiring for. I mean, Aurora Healthcare is not just hiring nurses. They might need some, customer service reps. They might need some software people. Well, that's where the left-hand column is. So the right-hand column is who's hiring, and the left-hand column's what's being hired. So if I go out to an event or something like that, I'll take a quick look at this and people ask, what jobs are hiring right now? Well, I got a quick idea on this screen. And then finally, we put some layoff data on here. So the layoff data simply tells you what are the largest layoffs that have been in your local area, which is the right-hand column for the last 5 years. And then what are the active ones? So if I came here, I can really quick and see, okay, here's the active notices in my area, and here's the largest ones. So it's just real quick at a glance information. And I know we're running low on time, so I'm going to go my last slide, and that is the famous question slide. So I'm going to say thank you for attending this session. For more information, you can please contact Patty Schnorr, the Technology and Performance Manager at DCEO OET. But now let's go ahead and open up for any questions, comments, criticisms, or awards.
Great, thank you both. It looks like currently in our Q&A, all of the questions have been answered. But again, like Levi noted, you can go ahead and post any additional questions you have right now in the chat. While that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and post a link to the survey for this session. You'll also get this sent to you via email, but if you're like me and you like to complete surveys when content is top of mind, I'll put the link in the chat right now. And I don't see any questions just yet. You've all done a great job of answering as we go.
I'm gonna put one shameless promotion out there. Every other Tuesday, we do a EBS technical assistance session. It lasts for about an hour, as long as people want. We solicit ideas. So if you have ideas, let Patty know, hey, I'd love to hear this about EBS, or I'd love to hear about this EBS. We'll find someone to present and do it. We're always there to kind of help you, move along with your thinking. So if you got ideas or want to hear something about that, let us know. We'll do a TA on it.
Yeah, it's really strictly it advances based on the user's input and asks. And I'm always open to have discussions on unicorns and what you think this couldn't even be possible, could it? I love those conversations. Let's talk about it and put it together, and maybe it is possible. So I really appreciate everyone that attended today and being here. And like Levi said, we're very open to have more discussions. If you want a demo of EBS, we can set that up. Chris Shifley is the main developer programmer on EBS, and he does an extraordinary job of showing and telling and giving that extra deep dive. And those are interactive experiences where you can, I know there's a lot of people on from Southern today. If you want to take a dive and look what it looks like in EBS on a Southern view, I'm happy to do that. But thank you all. I really appreciate the time, attention, and for so many people hanging in there. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Levi and Patty. And like I said, there's a survey link in the chat. You'll also receive that tomorrow, as well as recording via email. So thanks so much, everyone. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.
Good.